Recording. Good morning, everyone. Glad you could join us. I envision my role as a room host being very minimal. I'm going to let Ben and Chase do all of the talking today. So whenever you're ready, fellas.
Go ahead, Chase.
Well, welcome everyone. This is a little weird. Normally we do it in person, and that's kind of where I like to be. I like to be seeing all your faces. So now all I'm seeing is names. So we'll just imagine that you have a bunch of faces out there. So my name is Chase Watts. I'm the Director of Recruitment and Concurrent Enrollment at PCC. And we're going to talk about how we use Navigate, which is a specific tool for the Colorado Community College system to assist our concurrent enrollment students. And so Ben kind of threw this idea out there, and we met and talked about all the ways that we feel it can definitely benefit a concurrent enrollment population. And at PCC, we've kind of fully dove into Navigate. Many of our other partner schools are still kind of rolling through it, but we were in the first wave of the implementation, so we've had it kind of the longest, and have really embraced the Navigate culture, which once, hopefully after you see the presentation, you'll kind of see how it really does provide students with the most amount of support and kind of access to the different services that you provide as a college. So Ben, you can introduce yourself.
Yeah. So welcome everybody. My name is Ben Gehrig. I'm a concurrent enrollment specialist with Arapahoe Community College, focused on Douglas County School District and the STEM Collaboration Campus. I know that's a mouthful, but I work hand in hand with the rest of my teammates, as well as we serve a multitude of districts and stakeholders and partners. So yeah, it's been really great. Since I've started, I've gotten a lot of access to new tools and ideas, and being able to brainstorm with Chase about what's worked really quite well at Pueblo Community College has been eye-opening for me. So I'll be learning quite a bit along the way in this session as well. But towards the end, I'd like to share just a little bit about the pilot that I'm currently working on at Arapahoe Community College. So welcome.
All right, so I will see if I can share this as it loads. Give it a second. It's a little slow this morning. It needs more coffee as well. All right, can everyone see that? Just someone give me a yes or no.
Yeah, looks good, Chase.
Okay, thanks, Ben. All right, so just a brief overview kind of what our concurrent enrollment at PCC looks like, because I know every college is different and everyone runs differently. For us, especially on the Pueblo campus, we have about 540 students that take classes on our physical location. And this is primarily where we use Navigate the most. Our on-site classes, so the ones taught at the high school, we are starting to implement this with the instructors at those high schools, and want to move in that direction where they're going to have access and know how to use it, but that's a slow rollout process. So we've really embraced it with our current faculty because they know how to use it with our general population, and our concurrent enrollment students are in those classes on our campus. So we do service about 1,600 students, like I said, 600 or so of them on our main campus. The one thing that we continue to struggle with, which I know everyone does, is the workforce that you have to put towards concurrent enrollment. We all wish we had more people. So to give you kind of an idea of what we have at Pueblo, we have one full-time coordinator on our main campus, and then we have a part-time coordinator at our Fremont campus and one at our Southwest. And so they all wear multiple hats and they do different things, but we have really 3 full-time people associated with concurrent enrollment. When I look at anything with the areas that I oversee, I always look at where our weak points are and try to shore those up. One of the things that when I took over concurrent enrollment, we started to look at was, how we're communicating with students and our high school partners and the parents and everyone involved. As all of you know, concurrent enrollment, there are a lot more people involved in the process than just normal recruitment or normal college students. And so making sure that we're getting the communication out to them is super important. So we looked at our communication with our shareholders. So students, what do they need from us? Where are we missing the mark? Taking a look at, how are we getting them interested in concurrent enrollment? How are we communicating that they need to do the application, that they need to do our registration paperwork, all the different pieces that go into that. With the parents, one of the things always comes up is, what are they on the hook for financially? What do they need to do to make sure their student's successful? And then really another major piece for us at PCC was our high school counselors. Because we have so many students on our campus, a lot of times they felt like they were in the dark about how their students were doing on our campus and in their classes. And so we really wanted to kind of work to shore that up, and Navigate gave us this great opportunity to do that, where it required very little lift on our side as far as workload to a coordinator or a director to be able to get that information out. We could just give them access, and you'll kind of see that as we go through. And then obviously retention focused. I don't know that this is a big thing for a lot of people, depending on your type of concurrent enrollment population. But for us, if they fail a class or they have to withdraw, that can negatively impact their ability to come back in to concurrent enrollment at each district. And so we really wanted to try to head that off as soon as possible. So get a student the resources they needed before that became an issue, so that we could keep them in the concurrent enrollment path. And then matriculation, always a big piece. I know Tammy has talked about it multiple times with all the CCCS colleges, is we really want to push our matriculation. So how do we do that? And how do we get students used to the way our colleges work, especially on the CE side? They've already been taking some classes, whether that's at the high school or on campus. How do we keep them moving along that path and realizing that it's fairly easy for them to do that? And then the last thing I'm always concerned about is reducing workloads. My people work extremely hard, and they love what they do, but we want to try to make things as easy as possible. So anytime we can automate communications to go out without anybody touching them, using different tools to integrate data, and then one of the cool things that we've done this semester is using Google Data Studio for our high school partners to see our overall concurrent enrollment process, which is I think for them gives them a really cool access point to see the kind of the flow of their students. And then coupled with Navigate, it just gives them the full picture of our enrollment process for their concurrent enrollment students. So we'll start with the communication piece and how Navigate helped with our communication to students. So to kind of give a brief overview of our process, students fill out the application to the college. That's always their ideal first step. That's what we want them to do, so they get their S number. Then they get an email about filling out their concurrent enrollment paperwork. That form is electronic. They fill it in. It gives us the information we need to start, getting them through their high school, their counselors, all that information. But what we do with that export from our electronic forms is we actually go in and tag each student in Navigate with a unique identifier. So if you're familiar with Navigate, there's the student profile, and across the bottom there are tags, and you can separate populations out based on these tags. And what this allows us to do is then be able to run reports specific to each high school. So as my example, this student is one of our Central High School students for the fall term. And we would be able to pull a full list of all Central students who are enrolled with PCC. This allows us to automate communications to those students. It allows us to see what's missing for a group of them. We can customize their Navigate experience based on these tags. So just a wide variety of options for them on the student side. We also look at Navigate on the student type. So as we code the students as the H type and are refining that updates automatically. And so one of the things that we plan on rolling out, hopefully by next fall, is within the Navigate student side, you can customize all the to-dos and the reminders to be specific to that H type. And so concurrent enrollment students would have completely different to-dos and reminders than our general population, which right now, for those, I don't know how many of you on here are part of the CCS system. So this is probably more tech based, but that would allow you to change over the entire CAT. And so your students, when they log into their Navigate, would see specific CE items and not just all the general reminders. It also helps with the automatic reminders, so that if they download the Navigate app on their phone, they can get push notifications. We can text out of it. All of those things are possible when you start to look at Navigate as a communication tool and being able to segment out the population. The other thing that's really helpful for us, because we do have such a large population that take classes on campus and we require them to meet with an academic advisor, Navigate uses appointments we use it as its main point. And so we're able to set up locations and services for concurrent enrollment students, and they can schedule their own appointments. They don't need to call, they can do it right through their portal. They can schedule, cancel, reschedule, whatever they need to do, and let us know what type of services they want. The other thing that's been super helpful is with everything COVID related, we've been able to set up virtual services for concurrent enrollment students, which has been super successful. So they can sign up for a virtual appointment. They don't need to let us know that they need it virtual. It's just there, it's available to them. It sends our WebEx links in the communications and reminds them with the link as well, 15 minutes before the appointment. So really just does a lot of work for us on that side with the communicating to students. Kind of got ahead of myself there as well, but so the texting, PCC doesn't have a texting software, so we use Navigate as our texting platform. And so it allows us to send reminders or one-off messages to students about scheduling their advising appointment for the upcoming term, that they're missing certain pieces of paperwork, you know, anything that's related to that students. And what we found, and I'm sure any of you that use texting have found, is that students respond to that faster than they respond to an email. And so my staff has actually gotten really used to just quickly typing up a message, sending it via text to our concurrent enrollment students. We get a response like that, and we're able to take care of things pretty quickly for them. The other nice piece, and this is from a director's side, where I like to see all the different communication touch points, Navigate logs, all of those, so you can see in a student's profile exactly what communications went out to them, and you know who sent it, and the responses that come back. Any questions thus far? I'm not looking at the chat, so Ben, if you see anything.
Yeah, I'm taking a look at the chat. So.
And then communication with our high school partners was the other big piece. So for the parent side, we do more communication outside of Navigate because their information isn't loaded in there. But for our high school partners, what we've done, without getting too much into the technical side of it, is we've created users for each one of our high schools. And so they have their own unique login. It exists outside of the normal login method for CCCS system schools. But what it does is it allows us to tag, when we tag a student with that specific tag for a high school, we can assign that tag to that counselor. And so they see only their students. They will not see any other students within our system. They see their students. And that allows us to, when we do progress reports or early alerts, which I'll get into a little bit later in the presentation, they're going to receive automatic emails about students who are at risk when the progress report has completed. They can see the case notes for those early alerts and progress reports. They can see our advising notes. Anything that we've put in Navigate for those students, they can see it on the student's record, which really gives our high school partners the full, well-rounded kind of look at what we've been doing on our side with their concurrent enrollment student. Okay, so then looking at retention, this is where Navigate really excels. It's a tool that's designed for that, for the onboarding and the retention piece for any school that's looking at it. And what we've kind of done this semester, and we don't really, this is our pilot, so I don't have a whole lot of data yet to share with you. But what we did is for 3 of our charter schools, we ran progress reports 2 weeks before the withdrawal date. And our advising department had done progress reports within the first 4 weeks and included concurrent enrollment students. So they got those in a normal sequence. But we did this one specifically for these 3 schools. So we just looked at those students that were tagged for each one of the schools. So Swallows Charter, Dolores Huerta Preparatory, and Goal Academy are the 3 that we looked at. And so we sent out a progress report request. And so each instructor for those students got a email requesting an update on the student's grade and how they were doing in the class. And the nice thing is on the dashboard, it shows us the campaign and the response rate from the instructors. So you can, send it out again if you need to those instructors that didn't respond, if you're looking for that. And then it also gives you the at-risk marker, which is really what we looked at to see students that were in jeopardy of failing a class. And so the instructor has marked them at risk of failing. And so interesting metrics to look at. You can see that depending on the school, we had more students that were at risk or not. In the bottom photo is the actual progress report when you click into it. And I left it small because I didn't want any of the student data out there necessarily. I didn't want to call any students out. But you can see the red boxes. Those are students that are marked at risk. We can see their grades associated there. It gives you the full listing for each course that student is in as well, and all the progress reports that you requested. And so our intent with this is anyone that was marked at risk, we were going to contact and recommend that they withdraw from the course so it doesn't affect their college GPA. Now there is still some financial implications to that, but for the student and their overall success, we really wanted to get ahead of that so that they're not taking the failing grade. Also, we reached out to the instructors that marked them if they were on the bubble and asked, if the student contacts you and they're willing to make up work or whatever they need to do, is there potential for them to bring that grade up? And so really advocated for the student and told the student that we were going to do that as well. And that was very successful. We've seen quite a few of those students turn their grade around because with everything with COVID going on, they weren't paying attention to their online class or turning in assignments as they needed to. And so they could catch up pretty quickly. So that's been a great asset to the students, and our faculty have been very responsive, which we appreciate. And then our high school counselors also appreciate knowing where the students are.
Hey, Chase, there's a question that came in about, do the notifications only come from the college, or can high school counselors also send communications through Navigate regarding college class information and so forth?
So the way it works is they would need to sign into Navigate as their user, and then they could communicate through Navigate with the student. And even technically, even the faculty that a student is assigned with, they could utilize that. The thing is with the way we set up the accounts, they are very general. So every communication that came from them would be marked as an example. It says like goal counselor instead of a specific person. Now, if we did that because we gave access to all of our goal counselors, so they all have the same login and username. But if you wanted to set up specific users for those counselors, they could have their own at that point.
Awesome, thank you.
So the progress report's fairly new for us, but I'm liking the data that I'm seeing on it. It's really helped us to save some students, which is always important. We want them to come back in the spring. It's also helped us, maybe not stop them from having to withdraw, but we've saved them from taking an F on their transcript, which is also a benefit to the student. So continuing along the retention piece, there are progress reports which we issue, and then there are what are called early alerts, which are actually submitted by the instructors, and those can be submitted at any point when a student isn't doing well. And I did pull a specific example from this. And so these are alerts that were issued by the instructors that the student has. You can see the comments. And the way it works at PCC, which is, it's up to each college to kind of how they want to do this, but I don't have the concurrent enrollment staff to actually manage the number of cases that come in. I mean, 600 students on one person to kind of close those out. So we rely on our student success coaches to actually reach out to these students and help them navigate what they need to do to bring the grade up or to address the problem. And so every time an alert is issued, a case gets opened, and we have a case manager who assigns those to the success coaches. But the high school counselor and one of our concurrent enrollment staff will always be on the case as well, so that they can see the outcome. And so as the case gets resolved, if it gets closed, they are notified of how it was resolved and who closed it. So if they have further follow-up questions, they can answer those. So it's really beneficial on that side to keep everyone in the loop of, we're working on it on our side. And for the high schools, a lot of times they'll go and address the student as well, saying, hey, we got to notice that you're not attending your college class. What's going on? How can we help? And so it just really provides that wraparound service, or as Michelle's presentation, the burrito, we give them that warm hug to kind of make sure they're being successful. And so this has been amazing to watch. And a lot of times the cases will come in and we're like, well, what do we do? And so the success coaches have been amazing at calling these students, and they call, text, email, whatever it is. And really, we've seen a lot of students save themselves. So about 4 weeks in, they start to that decline, we can turn them around real quick and they're able to pass the class.
Jace, there was a quick question about FERPA related to what both partners and college folks can see in terms of student records, data, GPA. How does that fit into the information sharing?
So with most of the MOUs that everyone signs within concurrent enrollment, we're allowed to share academic data. And so that is where we're allowing the high schools to do that. I did run it by a registrar. She's perfectly happy with that because they have a need to know the academic information. And so no FERPA issues as far as we are concerned. It's also, like I said, when we tag the students and assign them, we retain control over that. They only see their students. So it's not like they can go in and see any other school students. They only see the students that have been marked as theirs, and they have an interest in their academic success. So
okay, thank you.
Yeah. So that's actually a great point, because right here, this is the kind of the look from this the high school counselor staff side. So when they log in, these are the tabs that they see. They're assigned students. And so every student that has been marked as a DHPH student would show on this. And that's what allows them to see the student's record. They can't go anywhere else and look up other students. It is only the students that they are assigned to. So it puts it all in a nice, neat spot for them. They can go through and see. And then also when we run a progress report, they can see the progress report for just their students. And they can't see it for anyone else. And then another thing that we've found that I think several of the schools that we've piloted this with have found super beneficial is the appointment summaries that come through. So like I said, every student that takes an on-campus class with us has to be advised. And so they will come in and see us, and we put our notes, the courses we recommend, the academic plan they're on, whatever that is, in there. And so as a counselor, you can go in, see the appointment summaries for Kayla here, and what courses we recommended, why we dropped the course, why she withdrew. All of that information is logged. So there's a consistent kind of dialogue of what has taken place with the student, which is very, I think on our side specifically, is super beneficial. And I kind of talked about that in the matriculation piece even, is knowing the progress the student has made, or the changes in program, or whatever they've decided to go with. The other nice piece for us on our retention side, the counselors are able to leave us messages. And so our Teresa Martinez, who's at GHPH, does an amazing job of giving us notes on her students, whether it's what courses they need to register into, what high school graduation requirements they still have. She leaves all of that documented in there. And so what it saves us from having to do is, like, if she just emailed one of our counselors and gave that information, it just kind of sits in the email inbox, right? Well, now, anytime somebody goes into the student's record on our advising side and they're meeting with Kayla or whoever, they're able to see those notes from the high school counselor and go, oh, we see you still need, 1 full credit of science for high school graduation. Let's get that taken care of now. We're not doing this back and forth with them, sending them a schedule that doesn't work. All of that's laid out. So the other piece is that, they're only available in the mornings. They have high school classes in the afternoon. So let's stick to this time frame. Super beneficial for our high school staff to put that in there. It just makes it easy for all advising staff to see that at PCC for those CE students. So then the third and final piece, that using Navigate for matriculation. And this is something that, since I also oversee recruitment, big part for me is that it's an easy pool to try and pull from. And so we've looked at it in a couple different ways, and we're still, we've done this. We did this graduating spring would have been our first group that we really kind of went after with Navigate and our matriculation plan. And it was all wonky anyways because of COVID. So not really probably the best term to look at data on it. But what we did is for our graduating CE seniors, we went ahead and set up an advising appointment campaign that pushed them to our general academic advising. So they're usually seeing our concurrent enrollment advising staff. Once they graduate, we really want them to get to know our regular advising staff. And so we set up the appointment. Those students are used to checking their student email accounts, hopefully, right? Everyone should check those. But we set it up and you send out the appointment campaign and it will send them an email saying, hey, it's time to schedule your fall 2020 classes. Go ahead and click here and we'll get your schedule set or your appointment set up for you. So it was specific to those students so we could track it. You can see only 8% of the students that we had in that campaign actually made appointments. But it also relies on our advising staff to associate their appointment. And so what we found is that that wasn't always happening. So the number is a little bit better than that. But it gave us the ability to track them through that to make sure they were getting their advising appointments, to re-trigger sends of the appointment emails, all of that in there to get them moving over. So not really giving them an opportunity to be like, oh, I need to think about where I'm going. It's like, no, just continue on with that. It's super easy. We've already got your appointment availability out there. You can set it up. The other nice thing with this is on our advising staff, when they met with these students, they knew they were concurrent enrollment students already and could go back in and see the notes and the courses. And the other piece that we did, which I hope is the next slide, is that we would build in Navigate their academic plan for the next term. And so my staff would go in and based on the courses that a student had taken or what we identified as their program of study, they would go in and recommend a certain number of courses. So not only does this help our advising staff know that this is what we recommend because we've worked with them for the last 2 years, but also for the student that these are the courses you need to finish off your degree or to get one semester closer. And they can see this in their Navigate. And so every advising appointment we have with concurrent enrollment students now, we log them into their Navigate, we have them look at it, they get used to that. So when it came time, our hopes were when it came time for them to continue their college after high school, they'd just go into their Navigate and be like, oh, this is already set up for me. I'm going to just keep it easy and go that direction and take these classes.
Chase, there's a question about how many CE advisors operate in your office, and then how many traditional advisors on the other side of the house do you work with?
So we have 2, and one of those is me. As far as concurrent enrollment advising go, we have 1 full-time. Like I said, I'm kind of split, so I help as best I can. And then on the other side, we have 5. But then our success coaches also help with that, so there's 10 of them. So we have quite a bit of advising capacity on that side. With CE students specifically, we've identified 2 or 3 general advisors that are kind of cross-trained in both. And so they assist us when we need them to. And so that's who we set up the appointment campaigns for as well, as those 3 staff members work with our graduating CE students to keep them moving along the path.
Okay, thanks.
So the academic plan is a super powerful tool, really makes it easy for a student to schedule. You plan the courses and then they get to go in and actually select the time that they'd like to take the class. And so then reducing workload, like I said, the last piece that I always look at, the communication, because of the automation that goes into a lot of that, makes it super easy for us, the logging of it, all of that. The appointment scheduling and reminders, we don't have to, we set the services, and when we're available, it reads off of Outlook and fills in the appointments as necessary. We don't have to have somebody specifically do that. The students gain the access to it, and we coach them on how to set that up consistently, so they're always looking to set up their next appointment. Sharing the workload across departments. The nice thing with Navigate and all the information that's logged in there as well is that when we get super swamped, our advisors, like I just said, we have 3 that we kind of cross-trained. They're able to jump in and help us, and they see all of the information there. We don't have to kind of fill them in. It's all available to them, and if we've done the groundwork and the prep work correctly, it's pretty easy for them. They don't need to overcomplicated at that point. And then for our high school counselors, just giving them access to the information, not even necessarily requiring that they put anything in like the notes. I mean, it's great when they do, but giving them the information on, they can see a student's schedule, the days and times of it. They can see their grades. They can see progress reports earlier. It's just really giving them what's going on our campus. And there's no more kind of dark hole, if you will, of we've lost a student in the PCC CE world. It's they see it all the way through. There's complete transparency, which is what I've always wanted with our high school counselors and our high school partners, is because we're in the same business and we want to make sure students are successful. And this is the best way to do it, is by sharing across the board. So that is everything I had, Ben.
Cool. Yeah, so thanks, Chase. I'll switch over to my screen here real quick. So there's a few questions in the chat, Chase, if you're able to jump in there at some point. And I want to save plenty of time, everyone, for an open Q&A at the end. So we have sort of a rich dialogue about some of this content. So I've been in my current concurrent enrollment role for just over 6 months now. And I have a student portfolio, if you will, of about 85 students that come to one of our physical campuses, whether they're studying, nurse aid certificate, psychology, or anything in between. And so when I was introduced to Navigate, it became really a fantastic hub for me to communicate about the extra steps that students that are required to do to come to one of our physical campuses, right? I think about the required orientation, the required advising and registration sessions that need to happen, and any communication that goes back and forth with those students about you have an underage hold or you need to turn in this additional paperwork. And so what I found along the way is that living in my Outlook inbox and relying on email to get a hold of these students to set up advising sessions or help them with registration, it was kind of like screaming into a black hole a little bit. And so when I was able to upload my students' portfolio into Navigate, I was able to sort of have everybody in a central location, and I could filter out certain populations of students. So if I wanted to just send a message to the nurse aid students about the extra checklist they have to do for vaccination, CPR training before classes even begin, I could just click through those students in Navigate and send them a text and send them a link for an upcoming advising session with our lead faculty member, Cassie Racine. So it's been a really helpful tool in that regard, just from the standpoint of basic communication. I mentioned here warm handoffs. I work with a lot of pretty high caliber students who, not only are talented enough to take college level classes while they're in high school, but they have designs to either continue on at ACC, or if not ACC, then elsewhere, right? Met with a student the other day who had eyes on MIT. So I was talking about computer science classes that were available through concurrent enrollment. And just the warm handoff to folks where my expertise goes to a certain level, right? I can work with the high school counselors to know, well, you're approved for a specific CE class based on your high school curriculum and what needs to happen for those requirements. And so I can consult with you in that rubric. But when we start talking about MIT, I need to be able to tag in my counterparts in career and transfer services, right? We've got experts that are able to kind of work alongside students to project out, well, what do I want to actually do with these CE credits when I graduate from high school or continue on with my education. And the other nice thing to do, like Chase was saying, is sort of that holistic student support. So when I log into my homepage and Navigate, I'm able to see the students that are quote unquote assigned to me in Navigate. I can see a quick view of how they're doing in class. Have they finished their registration yet or not? I mean, that's a big situation that we're always focused in, especially this time of year, is that we've advised these students, they've been approved by their high school counselor to take this specific class or set of classes. And so have they actually gone in and self-registered, or do I need to assist them with that? So it is really nice to have that all in one place. And then additionally at CE, why I was grateful to get a chance to hear from Chase and how they had really dialed this in for their college population, meaning Pueblo community college students who physically come to one of their campuses, is at ACC, we have a huge 5,000 plus at high school CE population. And these folks, I have a pretty large portfolio of those students as well. They have a different onboarding process, to be sure. But definitely the goal of CE, whether you come to one of our physical campuses or take classes on your high school campus, is that we want to acculturate you to college life, right? We want to provide you an education in college access, yes, but how to be a proficient college student, right? Like, what does it mean to prepare mentally and in all other ways for the rigor of college classes? And so being able to start to analyze, well, who are these students and how are we supporting them in their efforts to really take on the identity of a college student? So I think about this more in terms of coordinated student care, right? My high school counselors are on the ground experts, and I am able to meet with them. We meet in a regional group about once a month, and they can give me some extra insight into as they're meeting with students and working through, scheduling and the intricacies of high school requirements, they can clue me into, okay, these folks are ready to start putting through your registration process. So it's helpful for me to have that collaboration with the partner. And then just really proactive support for student success. So initially, when I was introduced to Navigate, I took my 85 students who come to one of our physical campuses and I put them in, and I was able to communicate with them and help them through the onboarding process. Well, then a couple weeks ago, I thought, wouldn't it be magical to upload the other 1,000 plus students that are assigned to, in one of my assigned high schools and a part of my portfolio, and so that I can sort of organize them and just see how they're doing, right? So I can track their progress along the way. And of course, I'm going to allow the high school counselor to take the lead there in terms of outreach or next steps with what needs to be done for their CE coursework. But I can be there just as a supplemental resource as well and be aware of issues, like Chase said, as they come up, right? So if a student, especially in COVID land, is coming up against the withdrawal deadline and the college course was they bit off more than they can chew, I'm able to kind of see that in real time now, which is really great. And so the fourth bullet, the student data, right, is very, very robust, and I'm able to filter and sort in a way that can allow me either to hand them off to another resource at ACC, whether it's career and transfer or disability access services, or I can simply just have more insight when I go to meet with my high school partners. All right, so I'll do this really quite quickly. I just wanted to show you sort of what that looks like on the back end. And I tried to FERParize this, so if anybody sees something that is not supposed to be up here, just chat and let me know, but it should be pretty clean. So what I did just a few days ago was I organized all of my students by the high school that they attend, right? So if they're taking their CE classes on their high school campus, they have an at Rock Canyon or at Ponderosa and so forth. And then you'll see my at ACC population here as well. So let's say I wanted to take a peek at my legend students. I'd simply click into that folder. And then when I click on all, I can export the results for all 600 plus students.
Ben, you need to get those names off screen.
Oh,
Thank you.
the student names? Yeah, no problem. So what this allows is I'm able to see sort of the total number of credits the students have completed during their time in high school. I'm able to see, like I said, if they've registered or not, so I can see in real time, where they are in the onboarding process. So super helpful from that standpoint. And yeah, so just sort of to reiterate, it is really kind of the intent of the tool from the pilot perspective in which I'm using it to be a holistic student support tool, right? And allow for coordinated care, not only within my relationship with my LEP partners, but within other departments across campus, like I had mentioned, disability services or career and transfer services. So like Chase was saying, if I have a call with a student or a meeting, I can simply add those notes, and someone in career and transfer can sort of pick up where I left off and provide the student the best level of service possible. Awesome. So I think we have not quite 10 minutes. So just wanted to open it up to questions for either Chase or I.
So Ben, real quick, there was a question about, I think Lupe asked, how easy is Navigate to access? And I don't think I really covered this on the student, like from a student side, like how easy it is to get them to buy into this. And so let me show you, I'm just going to show you what it looks like. I have student access, so no worries on data here. So if everyone can see this, this is what the students see when they log into Navigate. As I mentioned, the to-do items, they display down here. These can be customized to your concurrent enrollment students. They can set up their appointments by using the appointment scheduler, which makes it extremely easy. Any messages that they've received from us, their class schedule. So we really use Navigate as like their central point to a lot of different avenues. The other piece is, so you saw the academic plan. On the student side, it's called the planner, and I'm hoping it'll load. And so this is what the student actually sees. And so when we submit our plan for them for their next term, there's actually a message that pops up and says you've received suggestions from your advisor about what courses to take next. They can either accept them, deny them, they can ask some changes. We can leave notes for the student. So we really push the students to use Navigate for any type of registration, any type of class lookups, all of that. We drive students to Navigate, and everything we communicate to our students at PCC is very much focused on Navigate as their central point for that. So I just wanted to show kind of how it's very simple, especially from a student side. They see everything in one spot. It's easy to navigate. It doesn't take a lot of training for them to figure out how to use it.
A couple other questions coming into the chat. Curious about faculty cooperation in regards to the alerts. Do you have high participation from instructors? So it's an accurate representation of at-risk students.
So that is a great question. And I think I showed it in the slide, but usually about 50% for the CE students. And like I said, we just launched that this semester, and it was kind of a late thing. For our general population with the progress reports that are requested, those hover around 75 to 80%. So our faculty know that they should respond to those things. Ours came off in an off time, so they weren't necessarily looking for the concurrent enrollment ones, and we kind of just did it without necessarily letting them know. So I think that if we push that out a little bit better on our side as far as communicating to the faculty instructors, we'll get a better return. It's super easy for them to do. They receive an email, they click on it, it takes them to that, to their students that they need to submit progress reports on. So it doesn't take them much time other than kind of, typing in if there's comments or concerns. For the vast majority of our students that were reported, like I said, only about 10% for most of them were at risk. And so those are the ones we focus on.
And a question from Chrissy, is there any pricing info that you can share about how this is rolled out?
I don't have any pricing information. I know so the system purchased it together. It is a fairly expensive product. So it would probably depend on the size. But we can get you the contact information for Navigate if you want to pursue that. And we do use this for our non-CE students. This is what we use for all of our students across PCC and across the community college system. All the colleges are using this in some way, shape, or form for the onboarding and retention pieces of their colleges. Yeah, so Kristen, the nice thing about Navigate and the way it's set up is for our instructors, all of those requests look like it's coming from internally. And so when we're requesting those progress reports or they're doing the early alerts, they're confident that FERPA is being followed because our registrar is very on point with that. If any of you know Barb Benedict, she is the FERPA police. So it's not really a concern for the instructors. They know that they're allowed to do that.
And Kristen,
yeah.
oh, go ahead, Chase.
So Recruit is the CRM system that we use in the recruitment office. It is separate, but it is what handles all of the applications for the Colorado Community College system. So that piece of software is like the entry point for students. And we use that to communicate out to our concurrent enrollment students. So when a student fills out the application, there's a question on there that would identify them as concurrent enrollment. We have a specific communication plan that sends them information that is regarding CE specifically, and they do not get normal general population communications. I think there was a question about how easy it is to set up customize the to-dos. It will depend on your security role at your college. So the way you customize it is through the CAP. And so if you're given permission to that, you would have the ability to go in and customize those to-do reminders, as well as setting it up by cohort, so like the H-type, so that when students log in, they only see what relates to their cohort model. That would be something that's a school-specific level request.
Awesome. So we have just a couple minutes left. Any final questions that we can address? Awesome. If not, thank you so much for joining us today. It was great to get a chance to learn more about the extent to which PCC uses this, and I'm looking forward to expanding out as well. So, Chase, any final thoughts?
Just answer Fran's question real quick. All 13 colleges of the community college system do have Navigate. It just depends on what level they are at in the implementation process. But they are all implementing it. So
thank you, Ben and Chase. What a great session. What a lot of good questions. I think we in the community college system can expect to have some phone calls, some questions coming in from our partners, like, why aren't you as awesome as Ben and Chase are? I'm ready for that. I'm ready to have those conversations, I think. Thank you everyone for attending.
Thank you guys.